Good evening. Florida's Department of Transportation, Florida's Turnpike Enterprise would like to welcome you to the Corridor Alternatives Public Information Meeting for the Central Polk Parkway East Alternative Corridor Evaluation, or ACE. We appreciate your attendance and participation. This meeting will begin with introductions of the study team members participating in tonight's virtual meeting. We will then show a project informational video that runs for approximately 21 minutes. After the video ends, we will answer questions submitted through the meeting registration. My name is Jasmine Haywood. I am the Turnpike Project Manager. Imran Ghani, representing the consultant team, will assist me with responding to the previously submitted questions. At this time, we would like to recognize elected officials who registered to attend the virtual public meeting. These include Lake Wales City Commissioner Keith Thompson, Frost Proof Mayor Michael Hutto, and Davenport City Commissioner Linda Thompson. The project informational video will now be shown.
The Florida Department of Transportation, Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, welcomes you to the second Corridor Alternatives Public Information Meeting for the Central Polk Parkway East from State Road 60 to US 1792 Alternative Corridor Evaluation Project in Polk County. There are multiple ways to participate in this public meeting. The virtual option is being held on Monday, May 5th, 2025, where members of the public can participate virtually or using their telephone. The in-person option is being held on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, in an open house format at the Tom Fellows Community Center, located at 207 North Boulevard West in Davenport, Florida. The same information is being presented on both days. This presentation will also be posted to the project website, centralpolkparkwayeast.com. This project is being developed in accordance with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, public participation is solicited without regard to race, color, national origin, age, sex, religion, disability, or family status. Please contact one of the Title VI coordinators shown here to express any concerns regarding Florida Turnpike's compliance with Title VI. The presentation will provide an overview of the project and its history, present the project's purpose and need, the corridor alternatives under evaluation, our community outreach efforts, and the study schedule. The planning phase is the first phase of FDOT's project development process. An alternative corridor evaluation, or ACE, is a planning level study. Key components of an ACE include establishing the project's purpose and need, defining the environmental features, and developing corridor alternatives. The engineering and environmental impacts of each corridor are evaluated, fatal flaws identified, and community feedback solicited. If feasible corridors are found, then they will move into the PD&E study phase for further evaluation. The study area is located in northeast Polk County. In January of 2025, corridor alternatives A, B, C, and D, which would connect State Road 60 to US 1792, were presented for public input. All corridors under evaluation are 500 feet wide. The approximate width needed for the highway is 310 feet. This will accommodate 4 travel lanes, 2 in each direction. Using a greater width now allows for minor alignment shifts in the PD&E study. An alignment for the Central Polk Parkway East project was approved in a PD&E study completed by FDOT District 1 in March of 2011. The District 1 PD&E study identified an alignment for a new highway from State Road 60 to Polk Parkway on the west and State Road 60 to US 1792 on the east. The projects were transferred to the enterprise in 2017, and the enterprise immediately began piecing the puzzle together. Design of Central Polk Parkway from State Road 570 to US 17 State Road 35 began in 2018, and the highway is currently under construction. A PD&E study was conducted to extend Central Polk Parkway from US 17 State Road 35 to State Road 60. Design is completed and the project is anticipated to start construction in early 2025. The enterprise also conducted a feasibility study in 2018 to evaluate the addition of limited access toll lanes on US 27. Results showed it was not cost feasible. In 2021, the enterprise reevaluated the route for Central Polk Parkway east from State Road 60 to US 1792 that was approved in 2011. However, construction of homes and businesses along the route required significant alignment changes, requiring a new evaluation, this Alternative Corridor Evaluation, or ACE. A project's purpose and need are the reasons why the project is necessary and serves as the basis for identifying reasonable alternatives. The need for the Central Polk Parkway East project that was established in 2011 by FDOT District 1 has been updated based on current and forecasted transportation deficiencies. The project needs include accommodating year 2050 transportation demand, improving regional connectivity, enhancing freight mobility and economic competitiveness, and enhancing safety and emergency evacuation. Polk County is located in the geographic center of Florida and along Central Florida's I-4 corridor. It is less than 1 hour from both Tampa and Orlando and close to Central Florida attractions. It is no wonder why Polk County is one of the fastest growing places in the state and across the nation, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. More than 26,000 people moved to Polk County in 2023 alone, and the county population is on track to grow another 66.5% by the year 2050. Traffic demand on the roadway network will increase with the population growth. Similarly, traffic volumes on the study area roadways are expected to increase by 65% by 2050. These graphics highlight one area of growth in Polk County along Johnson Avenue in Haines City. To the left is an aerial from 2018 when the land use was mainly agricultural. To the right is an aerial from 2024, just 6 years later, where there has been substantial urbanization and commercial development. Residential and employment growth within the county and throughout the region has increased the travel demand on the roadway network. This congestion map illustrates light, moderate, or heavy congestion that is regularly observed on major regional roadways, including Interstate 4, US 27, State Road 60, and US 1792 during the peak travel periods. The congested conditions on these major regional roadways will continue to degrade if no improvements or alternative travel routes are constructed. In fact, by the year 2050, heavy traffic congestion is forecasted for Interstate 4, US 27, State Road 60, US 1792, Lee Jackson Highway, and County Road 532. There are three major transportation projects to the north of the study area: the extension of Poinciana Parkway to County Road 532, the Poinciana Connector, a project to extend the Poinciana Parkway to Interstate 4, and a PD&E study to evaluate a new tolled limited access highway from US 1792 south of the Power Line Road extension to the future Poinciana Connector. With the Poinciana Connector, this project would provide a direct link to State Road 429 and Interstate 4, relieving congestion on US 27 and other area roadways. Drivers will experience significant travel time reduction. For instance, current travel time from State Road 60 to State Road 429 via US 27 and Interstate 4 is approximately 60 to 90 minutes during peak periods. If the major projects were to be constructed, the potential travel time from State Road 60 to State Road 429 could be just 25 to 30 minutes. With more than 13 million Florida residents located within 100 miles of Polk County, the county's transportation system plays an important role in supporting regional and statewide goods movement. Based on 2023 data, Polk County supports more than 81 million square feet of freight-related land use, a total area more than twice that of freight-related activity in nearby counties. The Intermodal Logistics Center in Winter Haven is a major freight activity center with the capacity to process up to 300,000 containers per year. There is a need to improve the overall circulation of freight and goods and support economic development within the area. The Central Polk Parkway East project will provide an additional option to the existing local and regional routes, thereby enhancing emergency response times and mobility during emergency events. Corridors A, B, C, and D were developed to address the project's purpose and need and were evaluated based on existing socio-cultural and environmental features. The corridor alternatives were discussed with local governments and project stakeholders and were presented for public input at virtual and in-person public meetings held in January 2025. There was significant public participation in both public meetings. The comments received focused on concerns over right-of-way and environmental impacts, proximity to Voc Tower Gardens, the need for traffic congestion relief, and the project timeline. Based on the input received, we have refined the corridor alternatives. Corridors E and F are the refined corridors and replace corridors A, B, C, and D. Corridors E and F start on US 27 and end at US 1792. Extension of the proposed Central Polk Parkway east from State Road 60 to US 27 may be the subject of a future evaluation. While corridors E and F start in different locations, they are the same north of Kokomo Road. We will now present the proposed route of both refined corridors, starting with Corridor Alternative E. The proposed route of Corridor E from US 27 to State Road 1792 will be presented in 7 segments. Segment 1 is from US 27 to Waverly Road in Lake Wales. Segment 2 from Waverly Road, Lake Wales to north of Lake Mabel Loop Road, Town of Dundee. Segment 3 is from south of Swan Road in Dundee to north of Kokomo Road, County Road 546. Segment 4 from Kokomo Road, County Road 546 to Bradbury Road, Haines City. Segment 5 from Bradbury Road to Carl Boozer Road in Haines City. Segment 6 from south of Champaign Road, Haines City to north of Horseshoe Creek Road in Davenport. And Segment 7 at the Sand and Silica Mine, ending at US 1792 near Ernie Caldwell Boulevard in Davenport. North will be oriented up on the graphics. Segment 1 is from US 27 to Waverly Road in Lake Wales. Corridor Alternative E starts on US 27 and is routed behind the Eagle Ridge Mall, then heads to the east south of Waverly Road and north of Lake Mabel. The graphics will also highlight sociocultural and environmental features in the area. Yellow shapes show existing homes that are on parcels of less than 1.5 acres, and light brown shapes are areas of planned development. The proposed path seeks to balance impacts to all present sociocultural and environmental features. Segment 2 is from Waverly Road in Lake Wales to north of Lake Mabel Loop Road in the town of Dundee. Corridor E continues on a northeasterly route. The proposed highway will bridge over east-west roadways and major wetland systems to maintain connectivity and accommodate wildlife movement. Segment 3 is from south of Swan Road and Dundee to north of Kokomo Road, County Road 546. The proposed route of Corridor E moves toward the west between H. L. Smith Road and Tyner Road. Segment 4 is from Kokomo Road, County Road 546, to Bradbury Road in Haines City. The proposed path of Corridor E shifts back to a northeasterly route, passing east of Bice Grove Road and the E.R. Jana Haines City Mine. Segment 5 is from Bradbury Road to Carl Boozer Road in Haines City. The proposed path of Corridor E shifts west to avoid Snell Creek and the surrounding environmentally sensitive lands. Segment 6 is from south of Champaign Road in Haines City to north of Horseshoe Creek Road in Davenport. The proposed path of Corridor E continues north and then splits into two possible routes near Horseshoe Creek Road, E1 and E2, to allow for coordination with a development that is currently under construction. Segment 7 is at the Sand and Silica Mine, ending at US 1792 in Davenport. The proposed path of Corridor E is to the east of the Sand and Silica Mine and ending on US 1792 near Ernie Caldwell Boulevard. The proposed route of Corridor F from US 27 to State Road 1792 will be presented in 6 segments. Segment 1 is from US 27 to north of Lake Marie Boulevard, Swan Boulevard, and Dundee. Segment 2 is from south of Edwards Road to north of Kokomo Road, County Road 546. As a reminder, corridors E and F are the same north of Kokomo Road. Segment 3 is from White Clay Pit Road to north of Bradbury Road in Haines City. Segment 4 is from Hinson Avenue to Snell Creek Road in Haines City. Segment 5 from Adair Road to the Sand and Silica Mine in Davenport. And Segment 6 is at the Sand and Silica Mine, ending at US 1792 near Ernie Caldwell Boulevard in Davenport. North will be oriented up on the graphics. Segment 1 is from US 27 to north of Lake Marie Boulevard, Swan Boulevard in Dundee. Corridor F starts on US 27 almost 4 miles north of Corridor E. The proposed route starts on US 27 north of Peace Creek Park Road, then heads in a northeasterly direction between Lake Trask Road and H.L. Smith Road. The graphics will also highlight sociocultural and environmental features in the area. Yellow shapes show existing homes that are on parcels less than 1.5 acres, and light brown shapes are areas of planned development. The proposed path seeks to balance impacts to all present socio-cultural and environmental features. Segment 2 is from south of Edwards Road to north of Kokomo Road, County Road 546. The proposed path of Corridor F crosses to the west of H.L. Smith Road and travels north between Vice Grove Road and Tyner Road. As a reminder, corridors E and F follow the same proposed route north of Kokomo Road, County Road 546. Segment 3 is from White Clay Pit Road to north of Bradbury Road in Haines City. The proposed path of Corridor F continues on a northeasterly route, passing east of Vice Grove Road and the E.R. Jana Haines City Mine. Segment 4 is from Hinson Avenue to Snell Creek Road in Haines City. The proposed path of Corridor F shifts west to avoid Snell Creek and the surrounding environmentally sensitive lands. Segment 5 is from Adair Road to the Sand and Silica Mine in Davenport. The proposed path of Corridor F continues north and then splits into two possible routes near Horseshoe Creek Road, F1 and F2, to allow for coordination with a development that is currently under construction. The corridor is then routed onto the east side of the Sand and Silica Mine. Segment 6 is at the Sand and Silica Mine, ending at US 1792 in Davenport. The proposed path of Corridor F continues east of the Sand and Silica Mine before heading west to end on US 1792 near Ernie Caldwell Boulevard. The refined corridor alternatives E and F were compared against each other and summarized in an evaluation matrix. You can review the evaluation matrix in greater detail on the project website or at the in-person meeting. This milestone schedule highlights our public outreach efforts. In addition to continuous local government coordination, 2 public meetings have been held, one in January and today's meeting. The input received has helped to refine the corridors to what we've just shown, corridors E and F. We anticipate presenting the selected corridor at a public meeting to be held in the fourth quarter of 2025. Corridor selection will be based on input received and the results of planning level engineering and environmental analyses. The proposed project is currently in the planning phase, where feasible corridors are being identified. The selected corridor will move to the PD&D study phase, where more detailed engineering evaluations will be performed that include locating interchanges and overpasses, a preliminary drainage design, coordination with utility agency owners, and more. The PD&D study phase will also include more detailed environmental evaluations. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise will evaluate the potential social, natural, physical, and cultural effects of the PD&D project alternatives. This includes noise and wildlife corridor analyses. Every effort will be made to avoid or minimize environmental impacts. Results of our environmental evaluations will be available for public review. Community outreach is an important part of the alternative corridor evaluation process. We encourage your continued participation. Please visit the project website to view available project information and provide your feedback. All the materials presented at this meeting are available on the project website, centralpolkparkwayeast.com. We will continue to work collaboratively with local governments and solicit your input to develop a community-centric transportation project here in the heart of Florida. At the January 2025 public meetings, we heard the concerns over right-of-way impacts. On the project website, you will now find a tool where you can input your address and see its location in relation to the refined corridor alternatives E and F. To use the address locator, visit centralpolkparkwayeast.com and click on Project 451419-2, then click Locate an Address. A new window will open. Toward the bottom of the window, you will see a field where you can type in an address. Then click the magnifying glass to search. The map will zoom in on the address you entered, allowing you to see its location in relation to corridors E and F, the only corridors remaining. You can also access the address locator by scanning the QR code on this screen or on the boards at the in-person meeting. We need your feedback. You can provide comments at the project website, centralpolkparkwayeast.com. If you attend in person, you can complete a printed comment form. You may also email the project manager directly or submit your comments by U.S. mail to the project manager. While written comments and questions are accepted at any time, we ask that you provide comments that you may have in connection with this public meeting by May 19, 2025. Thank you for your interest in the Central Polk Parkway East from State Road 60 to US 1792 Alternative Corridor Evaluation, and thank you for taking the time to participate in this public meeting.
Thank you for your attention to the project presentation. Detailed exhibits are available on the project website in the exhibit room, and we're going to provide a short tutorial on how you can access the information. All the meeting materials that will be on display Wednesday at the Tom Fellows Community Center are available for your review on the project website in the virtual meeting exhibit room. To review the exhibits, select this project on the website's homepage. So you first go to centralpolkparkwayeast.com and then select the bar that says 451-419-2. Once you've reached the page, select the green Exhibit Room tab near the top of the web page to view the project exhibits. The new page that opened will include a list of all the display boards or exhibits that will be on display at the in-person meeting. They're there for your review at your convenience. So if you click on one of the tabs on the left, the exhibit board, along with a brief description as to what the board shows, will open, and you can zoom in and out. For example, on this board is the project purpose and need, and it's just an example of what you can find on the board. You can also go down to the document section of the project website, and the boards are there for you to download and print if you so desire. So now we're going to start answering questions that were received at the meeting registration. That the questions were submitted by April 30th so that we can have time to provide and draft some responses. We received about 150 questions by that date, regarding the same topic. So we've grouped them into 38 questions that we'll be providing responses to tonight. And there were about 40 that wanted to know how they can find an address or an area in relation to the corridors. So that's going to be our first question. And Imran is going to help me with these responses. All right, so Imran, the first question is, will my property be affected, and do you have an overlay showing impacted properties?
So, good evening, everyone. So, if you're interested in finding out how your property will be impacted, you could either scan the QR code shown on the left or go to the project website. The website address is centralpolkparkwayeast.com. Once you reach the website, select project 451419-2 and then locate an address. Once you hit that, you will see a map similar to what's shown on the screen. You can enter your address, it will locate your property, and also show corridors E and F. And so you can figure out the proximity of your property to corridors E and F.
Thank you, Imran. So that little circle that pops up on the screen would be the address that would be entered, and as you mentioned, it would show it in relation to the corridor alternatives. Next question. Can we see a more detailed, clearer map of the proposed route? Now, I must say the map that we just showed is one of the clearest that we do have, but we do have additional maps, Imran. How can they find it?
So there are additional maps available on the project website. That address again is centralpolkparkwayeast.com. Once you go to that website, please select project 451419-2 and then select public meeting exhibit room. Maps are also available to download under the documents section.
Thank you. Question number 2, are any of the proposed routes ruled out?
So corridors A, B, C, and D were presented in January 2025 and are no longer being evaluated. Based on the engineering and environmental evaluation, and after considering the public feedback, the best performing segments of A, B, C, and D were combined and refined to create corridors E and F. We are now seeking inputs on corridors E and F.
Thank you. Do you have the corridor down to one route?
No, right now, both corridors E and F are still under evaluation. Also, please note that refinements to the proposed corridors E and F are still possible.
Okay. So we're quickly working to get a selected corridor, and as we mentioned before, by the end of the year. Question 5, will you keep the highway away from Bach Tower Gardens?
So corridors C and D were the two corridors that came closest to Bok Tower Gardens. These corridors have been eliminated.
Thank you. And we used the locate and address tool for this map inset, and it shows Bach Tower Gardens in relation to the corridor E. Next question, please. What are the criteria or factors that will determine the selected route, and how much weight do you give to alternatives that affect existing communities versus planned developments?
So our evaluation criteria included social, natural, cultural, and physical factors. When I say social, I'm talking about homes and businesses. When I say natural, I'm talking about wetlands and habitat for species. For cultural, we're talking about recreation areas and parks. And for physical, we're talking about contamination and utilities. All communities, whether existing or planned, are important. Additionally, several planned communities are likely to become existing communities by the time this project is completed.
Thank you. What definite date will I absolutely know for sure if my property will or will not be impacted? And when will the final route be decided on?
So we anticipate holding a public meeting in the fourth quarter of 2025 to present the selected corridor. Additional public meetings and a public hearing will be held during the PD&E study, and a final roadway alignment will be selected by August of 2027.
Thank you, Imran. So that final alignment, we're looking at 500-foot corridors now. That final alignment, as we mentioned previously, could be about 310 feet wide. So that PD&E study will help us to locate that final roadway alignment within the corridor that has been selected. And as you mentioned, by August of 2027, we hope to be finished with the PD&E study. So what is the timeline for impacted owners? Question 8, once the corridor is identified.
So in the current funding scenario, partial design is included in year 2028, and the earliest right-of-way acquisition can begin in year 2029. Property owners whose property will be impacted by the project will be notified during the design phase.
Okay, so partial funding, and the state will work to fully fund the projects. Um, when will construction start?
So while design and right-of-way is partially funded, there is no funding for construction. However, FDOT evaluates funding priorities on an annual basis.
Thank you. When will the project start affecting traffic?
So traffic patterns begin to change when construction is complete and the motorists are able to start using the roadway.
Okay, so not until it's built. Okay, so question 11. We're going to get the next set of questions, Imran, are going to be related to right-of-way. And the first being, who will purchase the properties affected?
So Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, which is part of FDOT, will purchase any property needed for the project.
Okay, and how will landowners be notified? How will they be notified? And what is the proper process for property acquisition?
So if your property is impacted, you will be notified in writing. This will happen during the design phase when right-of-way funding is in place. You can scan the QR code to view or download the acquisition process brochure. This brochure explains the process that FDOT must follow by law in purchasing your property.
So when you say in writing, so in writing from the FDOT, Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, and also in the design phase, and we just previously mentioned that design phase is partially funded in 2028. So we're not really expecting any letters from the FDOT until around the year 2028. Thanks, Imran. How will compensation be handled to be able to buy a property comparable to what is currently owned?
So you will be protected by Florida statutes that require the payment of full compensation to every affected property owner. Again, you can scan the QR code to download or view the acquisition process brochure.
What will happen to people whose homes are impacted by the highway?
So FDOT ensures that people receive fair treatment when required to move from their homes to accommodate a transportation facility. For those property owners whose homes may be impacted, they may qualify for Uniform Relocation Act, which provides federal relocation assistance. Please scan the QR code to learn more about the FDOT's Relocation Assistance Program.
And we can leave it here a little bit so that if folks want to scan the QR code. Will the budgets be increased for those who have to find new homes?
Yes, the final budget will include funding for the acquisition of all properties and relocations needed to construct the project.
Okay, so how many people's homes will this affect?
So I'm going to refer to the evaluation matrix, which shows the number of residential parcels impacted by each corridor. I want to note that this does not represent the total number of potential relocations. Relocations will be determined once the roadway cross-section and alignment is finalized, which will happen during the PD&E study phase.
Okay, have now we're going to go into a different set of questions, and this is about more like engineering. The first being have and interchange locations. Have the on and off ramps and toll booth locations been determined?
So interchange and ramp locations, also toll booths will be determined during the PD&E study through coordination with local governments.
Okay, so we'll take care of the toll booth locations, but through coordination with the local governments, we'll work out the interchange locations. Thanks, Imran. Question 18, will there be overpasses to maintain connectivity and private property access?
So again, overpass locations will be determined in the PD&E study through coordination with local governments. Central Polk Parkway East is predominantly a north-south roadway, so east-west connectivity will be maintained.
Is this new highway going to affect our property taxes?
So Florida's turnpike projects do not affect property taxes.
Question 20, a little more than halfway through. Where will the highway intersect on State Road 17, Scenic Highway in Lake Wales?
So as shown in the slide, in Corridor E, crosses State Road 17 south of Waverly Road. Corridor F crosses State Road 17 south of Lake Mabel Loop Road.
And keeping this graphic up because we have another question related to it. Where on State Road 60 will the project begin?
So both corridors E and F now start on US 27 and not State Road 60. The extension from State Road 60 to US 27 will be the subject of a future evaluation.
Another related to where it begins. Why is Corridor F so far from Highway 60 and further north than Highway 27? I thought the Parkway was to connect 60 to US 1792.
So Corridor F starts on US 27 approximately 4 miles north of Corridor E. And as I previously mentioned, the extension from State Road 60 to US 27 will be the subject of a future evaluation.
Prior routes A, B, C, and D kept traffic off Highway 27 by crossing 27 from State Road 60. Will new routes E and F put more traffic on Highway 27?
So in our January 2025 meeting, we did not show proposed interchange locations. Corridors A, B, C, D would have also proposed an interchange at US 27. New corridors E and F will relieve US 27. However, there is a potential to increase traffic near the US 27 interchange.
Do you notify new builders of this plan in advance of building homes?
So the project is public knowledge. As part of the study, we held a public meeting in January 2025 and are holding a second public meeting now. We have also used various outreach methods to reach homeowners, businesses, and developers, and will continue to do so in the future.
Okay, thank you, Imran. 25. Wouldn't it be less costly and less intrusive to have an elevated system along State Road 60, US 27, and US 1792 Why have you not considered US 27 as the prime route using an elevated roadway?
So we did consider an elevated roadway on US 27. A feasibility study on US 27 was conducted in 2018 to evaluate the addition of elevated limited access toll lanes. The study concluded that the project was not cost feasible and that there will be significant traffic impacts at the US 27 and I-4 interchange. So this picture is a project from Tampa. This is, I believe, the Gandy extension. So it tries to show you what an elevated roadway would look like.
All right, thank you, Imran. 26. When is phase one slated to begin and end? And which end do you expect to start from, north or south?
So construction phasing has not been identified and is usually finalized in the design phase. The corridors are approximately 17 to 22 miles, and there is a strong likelihood that the construction will be done in segments. We expect to start construction from the north and work our way to the south.
How far away from project locations will you be assuming for construction use?
So the proposed right-of-way is approximately 310 foot wide, and all construction will take place within the acquired right-of-way.
Okay, thank you. And I think the next set of questions will be related to environmental, starting with noise and getting into wildlife and plants. So how will noise from the highway be abated? If the roadway comes near a development, will a noise barrier be built?
So traffic noise analysis will be completed during the PD&E study phase. The analysis will determine if future impacts warrant consideration of noise abatement, such as noise walls. Noise walls that were identified as potentially feasible and reasonable under federal and state regulations will be further assessed during the design phase.
What has been propositioned for wildlife for this project?
So during the alternative corridor evaluation, we used Florida Geographic Data Library information to identify listed species issues, including species presence and wildlife corridors within the area. During the PD&E, Florida's Turnpike Enterprise will further identify species presence within the preferred alignment and evaluate wildlife crossings. Coordination with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission will occur during the PD&E phase.
Have you surveyed all areas for gopher tortoises, and will they be relocated or entombed?
So the preferred PD&E study alignment will be evaluated for listed species impacts. Listed species surveys are conducted during the design phase. Any gopher tortoises within limits of constructions are relocated before construction starts. Gopher tortoises will not be entombed.
Thank you, Imran. Will any of these proposed routes affect wetland habitats?
So the corridor routes do cross wetland habitats. We will evaluate bridging of wetlands during the PD&E study. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise aim is to first avoid wetland impacts. If impacts cannot be avoided, we try to minimize and mitigate any remaining impacts through compensatory mitigation. Florida's Turnpike Enterprise must also obtain necessary permits from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for its projects. FDOT projects are also subject to water quality standards, ensuring that no pollution or degradation occurs in the wetlands.
Good. So, question 32, reminder to everyone there are 38 questions total. Is FDOT open to working with local ecologists to protect Snell Creek flow and rare plants, and what next steps could begin?
So Florida's Turnpike Enterprise will coordinate with rare plant experts to minimize impacts to rare plants. The Snell Creek crossing will be evaluated for a bridge, and coordination with local ecologists will start during the PD&E study phase and will continue through future project phases.
Thank you, Imran. We'd like to take this time now to acknowledge the comments received related to the potential impacts of the Natives Nursery in Davenport, Florida. We will take the concerns mentioned into consideration as we refine corridors E and F and continue to coordinate with the Natives Nursery. We will also provide a written response to all the comments that we have received. And as the project manager, I thank everyone who has submitted comments for the patience in receiving a response for me as we prepare for these public meetings. We will provide written responses. How is FDOT addressing routes that go through conservation easements?
So conservation easements have been identified and minimized in the alternative corridor evaluation process. Florida statutes allow linear projects such as transportation projects to release unavoidable conservation easement impacts. Potential impacts to conservation easements will continue to be evaluated during the PD&E study.
That's the end of the environmental related questions. And we're going to wrap it up with some miscellaneous questions here. How do we make this happen without it being a toll road?
So currently there are more transportation needs than funding. If the project is not tolled, then this 17 to 21 mile project would be competing for funding against other non-tolled transportation needs. By tolling this road, we are expediting the process so the project can remove regional trips from the local roadway network and relieve local congestion.
Will a multi-use path be provided along the corridor?
So the potential for a multi-use trail located outside of the limited access right-of-way will be discussed with local governments.
Alrighty, from public input to completion, what was the timeline for the current State Road 429 Western Beltway toll road?
So the Western Beltway, also known as State Road 429, that project involved coordination between multiple entities like Florida DOT and the Central Florida Expressway Authority. The Florida's Turnpike Enterprise completed the 11-mile portion from Seidel Road south across US 192 to I-4 in Osceola County. So it took about 20 years from planning to construction complete.
Thank you. Looks like we're down to our last two. Have you considered high-speed railway instead of a road or in addition to it? Can Sunrail or another light rail be included in the corridor?
So the proposed project is not setting aside any land for light or high-speed rail. FDOT District 1 is studying potential Sunrail expansion to Haines City. Please scan the QR code to learn more about the Sunrail expansion in Polk County.
We're going to leave this page just in case folks are interested in scanning the QR code. And that's an ongoing PD&E study by FDOT District 1. Okay, so this is our last question. And again, these were questions that were received by August 30th. We acknowledge that there are more questions that we received as folks continue to register, and everyone who submitted a comment or a question will receive a response after the comment period closes on May 19th. So again, we appreciate your patience. Last question, Imran, and thank you for helping me through this Q&A process. Will the public have access to the project plans and documentation?
Yes, the final alternative corridor evaluation documentation will be made available for public review. The final alternative corridor evaluation report will be uploaded to the project website, and the PD&E study documentation will also be made available for public review.
So a meeting of this virtual recording, virtual public meeting, I should say, will be posted to the project website within about 4 days. It will be posted to centralparkway.east.com, and then you have to select this project, the 451-419-2. We want to thank you for attending, but we also want to continue to, first, before we close, to encourage your comments and your questions. You can go on the website. There's a contact form on the website. My email address. Um, at the in-person meeting, you can provide our in-comment forms. So we just continue to encourage your comments, your questions, and just because of the interest in this project, it's in the hundreds. So just bear with me as I respond to all the comments. The team responds. So at this time, we would like to thank you for your interest in this project. Remember that there are additional display boards and information on the project website that you can review. We also look forward perhaps to your also attending Wednesday night because we are going to extend it 3 hours open house format from 4:30 to 7:30. So we do hope that we see some folks there as well. And then so to close out, thank you for the team that helped me to conduct this virtual public meeting. Thank you again, Imran. And on behalf of Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, we thank you for your interest in this project and have a pleasant evening.